You know, I don't normally record rant videos, but I was looking at the spot prices of silver this morning, and keep in mind, it is currently May 7th, 2025. It's about 8:30 in the morning, and I was looking at spot price of silver, and gold and silver both pulled back just a little bit, but gold right now is sitting at $3,400 roughly. You can see it right here on SC Bullion's website. Silver is barely under $33 an ounce. Barely under $33 an ounce. Do you know what that means for the GSR? Here, take a look. The GSR right now is 103.2 to 1. Now, you know, I made a video about 2 weeks ago when the GSR got above 100, and I talked about how I was going to be swapping a little bit of my gold for silver, and I did. These 2 kilo bars that you're seeing in front of you, these are additions to my deep stack that I had actually traded out some gold for. I actually traded out a full ounce and got some more stuff as well, but these are the 2 things that I'm happy about because I'm a big fan of kilo bars. I collect kilo bars. And maybe that was a mistake that I traded it out. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But right now, it certainly seems to be so because what I'm seeing is the GSR continuing to spread apart. Now, there's a number of reasons that many people probably think that is. I have my own, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't make sense to me. Now, we can start by talking about ETFs. We can start by talking about paper silver. And in fact, let's do just that. Because unfortunately, even though, you know, silver is a very in-demand industrial metal, and let me be very clear, silver is also a precious metal, and it's actually quite abundant as a precious metal, right? But it's also an industrial metal, and there's not a lot of silver to be an industrial metal. It's actually kind of scarce for an industrial metal, and I really think that's part of the problem. This gives incentive for paper silver to manipulate the market. That's the issue with paper silver being traded. We talk about big banks and hedge funds having massive paper silver contracts that they can change, they can sell, they can move with just a few keystrokes. They take out all of these paper silver contracts with no delivery expectation at all. Most of the deliveries don't even happen. And so what's happening is you have big banks, like I said, and hedge funds that are controlling and manipulating the price for multiple reasons. One, obviously it's to make money. If they can manipulate something like silver to be able to sell it and make a bunch of money, they're going to do so. And it's not going, us physical stackers are not going to matter to these people. They do not care about me. They do not care about you. All they care about is the money putting into their bank account. But additionally, these same bankers are doing a favor to the industrial side of silver because of how much silver is being used in industry. And that number is going up. Guys, we have seen a deficit of silver for the last 4 or 5 years. We are producing less silver than is being used, and yet the price is continuing to be suppressed. So why is the GSR at 103.2 to 1 when gold has no industrial demand? I mean, I know it's not none, but it's very low compared to silver. It's basically none when you compare it to silver. Yet gold is coming out of the ground about 1/8 to 1/10 of silver. So that means for every 10 ounces of silver, let's do the conservative side, every 10 ounces of silver that's coming out of the ground, you're getting out 1 ounce of gold. Yet gold continues to go up and hit new all-time highs. I mean, we are talking week after week, it seems. Maybe there was a little bit of a lull here and there, but we are seeing so many all-time highs from gold, and silver has not even touched it. And keep in mind, when I am talking about the all-time high for silver, I am not even referencing 1980 because that was manipulation also. I'm just talking about as recent as 2011 when silver was almost $50 an ounce. Now, keep in mind, back then, when silver hit almost $50 an ounce, gold did not even hit 2,000. But let's just, for the sake of this video, say that it did. Let's say that silver hit 50, which it didn't. It was really close. And let's say gold hit 2,000, which it did not. That is 40 to 1. 40 to 1. Right now, gold sitting at 103 to 1 with silver. Are you kidding me? 40 to 1. And you know, I just read this report, and I don't know exactly which bank this was, Goldman Sachs, whatever. Don't quote me on the right one, but they said that gold is going to hit, or they are expecting gold. And keep in mind, these are analysts, so you know, a broken clock it's right twice a day, but it's wrong 23 hours and 58 minutes a day. So you know, they may not be right, but it's looking like they might be right. They said that they expect by this time next year for gold to be $4,000 an ounce. You know what they said about silver? They expect silver to be 35. You know what that is, GSR? That means the GSR is going to rise to 114 to 1 if their prediction is correct. And again, they don't maybe know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, none of these guys have a working crystal ball, but if you're looking at what's happening with silver and if you're looking at what's happening with gold, it certainly looks like that's the trend. It certainly looks like gold is headed that way. But you know what? Maybe this rant about gold versus silver is just coming from a place of jealousy, because maybe I'm jealous inside about how well gold has been doing and silver's not been doing. But there's a reason for that. I've already talked to you about how much comes out of the ground. I've already talked to you about the industrial demand. And if you think about silver, silver has been looked at and it's actually done a good job. So let's be fair to silver right now and talk about how well of a job it's done as a hedge against inflation. And I've talked about how important it is that you stack for that reason and not to make a bunch of money. But let's look at it. So silver in 1964 versus today. And I choose 1964 because that's the last year of the 90% silver quarters, dimes, half dollars. But in 1964, a silver quarter, or any quarter from 1964, because they were all 90% silver, would buy you a gallon of gas. It was actually around 27 cents, which is actually even better for talking about what it's worth more today, because today you can sell a silver quarter just for melt price. A silver quarter is worth like $5.75, somewhere in that range. So even in California, where gas is like $5 a gallon right now, you can still trade that silver quarter for a full gallon of gas. But it doesn't stop there. The price of silver, you actually need less silver, I should say, for a house than you did back in 1964. And houses today on average are bigger, and houses today on average have more amenities. So the houses are nicer today, they have better amenities, and you need less silver to buy one. You need less silver to buy a gallon of gas. In like 99% of the places in the US, you need less silver for food. You need less silver for a car. Well, we'll have to talk about a car because the car prices are ridiculous right now. But in general, I'd have to double check that one. In general, though, you need less silver for almost everything than you did in 1964. So in other words, the value of the silver that you were getting in your quarters and your dimes and your half dollars just in regular change, the value of the regular constitutional silver from back then is worth more today than it was back then. So that's awesome, actually. If you think about it, silver's done a very good job of being a hedge against inflation. So why am I ranting about this? Well, it's because I keep looking at the separation of gold to silver. We talked about this earlier in the video. The GSR is what's really got me upset, because while silver is actually doing quite well, it really is. It's doing really well if you look at it as a hedge against inflation, like I just said. Gold is doing that much better. I mean, $3,400 an ounce gold. If you think about gold, it was $2,000 an ounce just a few years ago. Why is gold hitting 50, 60, 70 all-time highs in the last couple of years, and silver, I should say, can't even come close to its 2011 all-time high? Why is that? Why is gold doing so much better? Is it because, as I said earlier, that the price of silver is being manipulated and intentionally held low so that industry can buy up as much of it as they need and keep the price of their product low? It's very possible. I don't know for sure. I'm not a fly on the wall in these boardrooms. I don't work for these hedge funds. I have no idea. I'm just another guy on the internet sitting on the other side of a microphone talking to people that are listening. And thank you for listening and being a subscriber, by the way. I don't know, but it sure seems to me that there is something happening that is keeping silver from doing as well as gold is doing right now, and it doesn't make sense other than to be for those reasons. So where do I go from here? Well, I'm going to keep stacking silver, because even if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, I believe eventually that they will not be able to continue to manipulate the price of silver. Now, all of this that I've said, everything I've said in my rant today, guys, I want to make sure I'm very clear. None of this is financial advice. It's just me ranting on a microphone. And I also want to be very clear that you should not buy silver just because you think it's going to make you rich, because it is not going to do so. And this has been proven time and time and time again. As I've explained in this video, it's done a very good job as a hedge against inflation, but that's it. It's not making anybody rich. If your goal is to make a ton of money, there are other investments, and you should, of course, seek a financial advisor to help you make those decisions. But I do want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear what you think about what I said. What do you think about the subject? Why do you think silver is underperforming versus gold? I would love to know your opinions. Guys, do me a favor and leave that comment down below and let me know. Hit that like button. Help YouTube recommend this video to others. And if you haven't done so yet, please go down and make sure you are subscribed. Help us get to 250,000 subscribers. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.